If I told you that one act of kindness inside a supermarket would make a ruthless mafia boss drop to his knees, would you believe me? The supermarket was louder than usual that Friday evening. Carts clattering, kids crying, cashiers shouting prices over the beep of scanners. Aisha Daniels had just gotten off her double shift at the diner. Her feet ached. Her palms smelled faintly of detergent, and all she wanted was to grab a loaf of bread, milk, and the cheapest box of cereal she could find before heading home to her little sister. But fate had other plans. As she turned down aisle 6, between the pasta and the canned soup, she saw him, a little boy, no older than 7, sitting quietly in a wheelchair. He had soft blonde hair that fell over his eyes and a tiny scar above his lip. His face was pale, too pale, and his hands trembled slightly as he tried to reach a box of crackers from the top shelf. Without thinking, Aisha hurried over. "Hey, sweetheart, you want this?" she asked, gently pulling down the box. He looked up, startled, his blue eyes wide. "Thank you, ma'am." His voice was quiet, polite, too careful for a child his age. She smiled. "Ma'am, I'm not that old. Call me Aisha." The boy smiled faintly, then winced, pressing a hand to his leg. That's when she noticed the brace metal and leather running up his knee. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. He nodded quickly. "I'm fine. My driver wanted to get something. He said I should wait here." "Driver?" Aisha echoed, amused. "You must be important." He giggled, lowering his voice. "That's what my dad says." Something about his innocence made her chest ache. Kids like him usually didn't talk to people like her. Not because she was scary, but because the world had taught her that her dark skin and secondhand clothes made her invisible. Still, for the next few minutes, they talked about cereal, school, and cartoons. He told her his name was Luca. But just as Aisha reached for a second item on the shelf, everything changed. The store lights flickered. Then everybody down. A voice like thunder ripped through the supermarket. Screams echoed as 2 masked men burst into the glass doors, one waving a gun, the other shoving the security guard to the ground. Aisha froze, her heart slamming against her ribs. The boy gasped beside her. The taller man pointed the gun toward the cashier. "Nobody move. Empty the registers. Now!" The shorter one began shoving customers to the floor, yelling, "Hands where I can see them!" Aisha instinctively crouched, pulling Luca's wheelchair back behind the aisle. But the metal wheels squeaked. The sound was tiny, yet it drew attention like a flare in the dark. The shorter robber turned. "Hey, you! What are you hiding there?" Aisha's blood went cold. He started toward them, gun raised. Luca whimpered, clutching Aisha's sleeve. "Please don't let him hurt me." She didn't think. She moved, throwing herself in front of the boy. Aisha spread her arms wide, trembling but fierce. "Stop. Don't hurt him. He can't walk." Her voice cracked, but it carried through the chaos. The man hesitated, lowering the gun slightly. "Move out of the way, lady." "I said he can't walk," she shouted again, tears brimming in her eyes. "You want money? Fine. Take my bag, take everything, but please, don't touch the child." The robber's jaw clenched. Something in her tone, raw, desperate, made him pause. Then, from across the store, a siren wailed. Someone had triggered the silent alarm. "Damn it!" the other robber yelled. "We gotta go." But before they could flee, one of them fired a warning shot. The bullet hit a glass display near Aisha, showering her with shards. She screamed, falling back, but still shielded the boy with her body. "Please don't shoot. He's just a kid," she sobbed. And for reasons no one could understand, the man hesitated again. Then both robbers bolted through the exit. Within seconds, police sirens grew louder. Shoppers peeked from behind shelves, trembling. The chaos began to settle. Aisha turned to Luca, brushing shards of glass from his sweater. "Are you hurt, baby?" He shook his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. "You saved me." "It's okay," she whispered, hugging him tight. "You're safe now." But what Aisha didn't know, what no one knew, was that cameras across the city had already captured the scene. And within 10 minutes, the footage reached the phone of Vittorio Mancini, the most feared mafia boss in the state. His son had been inside that supermarket, and the woman who'd thrown herself in front of a gun for him had just changed her life forever. Later that night, Aisha sat in her small apartment, knees drawn to her chest, staring at the TV. The news replayed the footage on every channel. Local woman shields disabled boy during armed robbery. Bravery caught on camera. Mystery child rescued by unknown heroine. She sighed, overwhelmed. All she wanted was a quiet life. She didn't want fame or attention, not when she could barely pay rent. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hello." A deep voice answered, calm yet commanding. "Is this Aisha Daniels?" "Who's asking?" There was a pause. Then, "This is Marco. Mr. Mancini would like to speak with you." Immediately. "Mancini?" she repeated, confused. "Whose?" "The boy you saved, he's a son." Her heart stopped. Before she could respond, Marco added, "A car will be outside your building in 10 minutes. Don't be afraid. Just come." Then the line went dead. Aisha stood frozen, the phone trembling in her hand. What had she gotten herself into? Outside, a black SUV pulled up exactly 10 minutes later. The man who stepped out wore a tailored suit, dark glasses, and an expression that could cut glass. "Ms. Daniels?" he asked. Aisha nodded hesitantly. He opened the door. "Please, Mr. Mancini is waiting." As the city lights blurred past, Aisha's stomach twisted with nerves. She didn't know where they were going, only that the deeper they drove into the hills, the quieter everything became. Finally, the car stopped in front of a massive villa, its gates taller than any building she'd ever entered. Inside, the air smelled of well-polished marble, perfume, and danger. And at the far end of the room, standing by a fireplace, was Vittorio Mancini himself. Silver hair, sharp jawline, and eyes that looked like they could see through her soul. Beside him sat Luca, smiling when he saw her. "Papa, that's her," he shouted, waving. "That's Aisha." The Mafia boss turned slowly. "So," he said, voice low, "you're the woman who risked her life for my boy." Aisha swallowed hard. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," Vittorio said, stepping closer. "No one does what you did. Not in this world." There was silence. Then he added, "You've done something I can never repay, but I will try." That night, Aisha learned that Luca's mother had died years ago, that his father, the most feared man in the city, had been trying to protect him from his enemies. But what no one expected was that those same enemies had been the ones who sent the robbers. And by saving Luca, Aisha had unknowingly put herself in the middle of a war she didn't even know existed. As she stood by the window, watching the moonlight fall over the mansion's garden, Aisha heard Vittorio's voice behind her. "From this moment on," he said softly, "you're part of this family, whether you like it or not." She turned, startled, just as he added, "They'll come for you next." The room went silent, and somewhere outside, a car engine purred, watching, waiting. "They'll come for you next." She stood by the window of the guest room, staring out into the dark gardens. The moonlight glinted off the fountain outside, its gentle trickle the only sound in the silence that hung over the mansion like a hell breath. Somewhere below, she could hear Luca's laughter, fragile, innocent. That sound alone made her stay. But deep down, something felt wrong. The next morning, Aisha was led downstairs by Marco, the same bodyguard who brought her there. "Mr. Mancini would like to see you," he said. Vittorio was already seated at the dining table, dressed in a crisp suit, sipping espresso like a man who owned time itself. "Did you sleep well?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Aisha replied softly. "Good, because you'll need your strength." She frowned. "For what?" Vittorio set his cup down, eyes locking on hers. "There are people who saw your face on the news. The men from last night weren't random thieves. They were sent." A chill crept up Aisha's spine. "Sent? By who?" He leaned back in his chair. "Someone who's been trying to destroy me for years. They failed to hurt me, so now they'll hurt anyone connected to my son, including you." Aisha's throat went dry. "But I'm no one." "Not anymore," Vittorio said. "The moment you shielded my boy, You became a headline. And in this world, headlines are targets. Marco stepped forward. We've already intercepted one attempt. What? He handed her a phone. On the screen was a photo of her apartment. The door had been forced open. Her things were thrown around. Aisha covered her mouth. Oh my God! You can't go back there, Vittorio said. You'll stay here, under protection. But I can't just hide here, she protested. I have a sister. She's safe, Vittorio interrupted. We've already moved her. That stopped her cold. He had moved her sister? Without even asking? How do I know you're telling the truth? Aisha demanded, voice trembling. Vittorio gave a small, tired smile. Because, Ms. Daniels, if I wanted to harm you, I wouldn't have saved you. The calm in his tone made her shiver. That night, Aisha sat in the garden beside Luca. He was showing her how to feed the koi fish. You know, Papa never smiles like that, Luca said suddenly. She looked up. Like what? Like when he talks about you. The boy said innocently. He said you remind him of someone. Aisha laughed nervously. He must be mistaken. But later, when she was alone, she couldn't shake that line. Someone, as she walked through the hallway, she overheard voices from the study. She doesn't know Vittorio, Marco was saying. She can't, Vittorio replied sharply. Not yet. Do you think she'll find out? Eventually, Vittorio said, his voice low. But by then, it'll be too late. Aisha froze. Find out what? She took a step closer. The floor creaked. Then the door opened, and Marco stood there, staring right at her. Can't sleep? He asked calmly, though his eyes said, I know you heard us. She forced a smile. Just getting some water. He nodded slowly. Be careful, Miss Daniels. Not everything in this house is as safe as it looks. Aisha had just tucked Luca into bed when the power went out. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. Stay here, she whispered to the boy. The silence was deafening. Then, the sound of glass breaking downstairs. Her pulse spiked. She grabbed a fireplace poker, her hands trembling. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. 2, maybe 3 men. She hid behind the door, heart pounding in her ears. One of the men whispered. Boss said grab the woman first. Then the boy. Aisha's blood ran cold. They were after her. The doorknob turned. She swung hard, striking the first man in the shoulder. He shouted in pain. Run, Luca, she screamed. But before she could move, another man grabbed her from behind, slamming her against the wall. The poker clattered to the floor. Let go, she cried, clawing at his arm. Then a single gunshot shattered the silence. The man's grip loosened. He collapsed. Standing behind him was Vittorio's gun still smoking. His face was stone. His voice is colder than the marble floors. No one touches what's mine. He turned to Aisha, eyes fierce. Are you hurt? She shook her head, too shocked to speak. Within minutes, more guards flooded in, taking down the remaining intruders. But what stunned Aisha most was the way Vittorio looked at her afterward, not as a stranger, not even as a savior, but as if he knew her, deeply, painfully. Later that night, she found him in his office, staring at an old photograph. You shouldn't be here, he said without turning. I want to know the truth, Aisha said firmly. What did you mean when you said they'd come for me next? What aren't you telling me? He exhaled slowly, setting the photo down. You remind me of someone, he said softly. Her name was Maya. She worked for me many years ago. Aisha frowned. Maya Daniels? Vittorio froze. His eyes lifted slowly to hers. You knew her? Aisha's heart skipped. She was my mother. Silence. Vittorio's expression cracked something between shock and guilt. Your mother? Yes. She died when I was 10. But before she passed, she made me promise to stay away from the city. She said it wasn't safe. Said there were men who would hurt us if they knew who we really were. Vittorio's voice was barely a whisper. My God! What? He swallowed hard. Aisha, your mother didn't just work for me. She saved me. Twice. She was my confidant. My friend. Her breath caught. What are you saying? He looked at her, eyes glistening. I'm saying that your mother died because of me. The words hit like a thunderclap. What? I tried to protect her, but she got caught in the crossfire meant for me. The people after me now, they're the same ones who took her from you. Aisha staggered back, tears spilling down her cheeks. So this is your fault? My whole life, my mother was terrified, and it's because of you? Vittorio didn't deny it. He just lowered his gaze. I can't undo what happened, he said quietly, but I can make sure you don't share her fate. Aisha's hands clenched. I don't want your protection. I want the truth. You have it, he said softly. Now you'll have to choose what to do with it. Aisha stormed out of the study, tears streaking her face. In her room, she opened the drawer and found something she hadn't seen before. A phone, brand new, already unlocked. On the screen was a message. If you want to avenge your mother, meet us tomorrow night. Alone. She froze, reading the sender's name. The Black Hand. Her hands trembled as she looked out the window toward the dark horizon. Outside the gates, a pair of headlights flickered twice, waiting. Aisha took a deep breath. For the first time in her life, she wasn't just afraid. She was ready. The next night, Aisha waited until the mansion was quiet. She put on her mother's old coat, the one thing she carried since childhood, and slipped out through the side gate. A black car was waiting under the willow trees. The driver didn't speak, just nodded for her to get in. They drove through winding streets until they reached a crumbling warehouse on the edge of the city. Inside, men in dark suits stood in a half-circle. Their faces were shadowed, except for one. A woman stepped forward, tall, sharp-eyed, dressed in black leather. You must be Maya's daughter, she said. Aisha stiffened. You knew my mother? I fought beside her, the woman said. Name's Nadia. Your mother was one of us, the Black Hand. Aisha blinked. One of you? Nadia nodded. We were the resistance inside Vittorio's empire. Maya helped us leak his money routes, save lives. But when Vittorio found out, he tried to protect her. He didn't know his enemies were already watching. They sent a hitman. Your mother died taking a bullet meant for him. The words hit like thunder. She died for him? Aisha's voice cracked. All these years, I thought he killed her. Nadia's eyes softened. He didn't pull the trigger, but his choices did. Every person in his circle becomes a target, and you, child, have just stepped into her shadow. Aisha swallowed hard. Then why message me? What do you want from me? Nadia's lips curled into a grim smile. To finish what your mother started. Aisha listened as Nadia laid out the plan. Infiltrate Vittorio's accounts, expose his operations, and dismantle the empire that cost her mother her life. Why me? Aisha whispered. I'm not a spy. I'm just... The only one he trusts, Nadia interrupted. He's already let you close to the boy. You can get where we can't. The thought made Aisha's stomach turn. Use Luca? That sweet boy who still couldn't sleep without his nightlight? No, she said firmly. I won't hurt that child. Nadia's gaze hardened. Then you'll let your mother's death mean nothing? Tears welled up in Aisha's eyes. My mother died trying to protect people, not destroy them. Nadia stepped closer, voice low. Your mother died because she thought Vittorio could change. She was wrong. Don't make the same mistake. That night, Aisha snuck back into the mansion. She went to the guest room, her head spinning. She needed proof. Something real. She began searching through the desk drawers and found a wooden box hidden under a stack of files. Inside were letters. Old, faded, written in her mother's handwriting. Her breath caught. She opened one and read, Vittorio, I can't stay here anymore. I've seen what your world does to people. But I'll protect your son, even if it costs me everything. He deserves better than this bloodline. Aisha's hands trembled. Her mother had protected Luca. Even back then, the next letter was worse. If something happens to me, tell Aisha the truth. Don't let her grow up hating you. You both deserve peace, even if it's without me. A tear splashed onto the paper. Aisha sank to her knees, clutching the letters to her chest. Her mother hadn't died for money. She died for love, a forbidden, impossible love. The next morning, Aisha confronted Vittorio. He was in his office, going through documents, when she dropped the letters on his desk. "You kept these?" she demanded. He froze, then looked up slowly. "You found them?" "Why didn't you tell me?" she cried. "Why didn't you tell me she loved you? That she died because she was trying to save your son?" Vittorio's face was a storm of guilt. "Because if you knew, you'd hate me more." "I already do," she shouted. He closed his eyes, pain flickering across his features. "Your mother was the best part of my life, Aisha. When she died, I swore I'd never let another innocent pay for my sins. But fate has a cruel sense of humor." She shook her head, tears streaming down. "You think this is fate? My mother's grave, my lost childhood, my fear, that's not fate. That's you hiding behind excuses." Vittorio's voice broke. "You have every right to hate me. But don't take it out on Luca. He's just a child." "I wouldn't," she whispered. "But your enemies will." She turned and left before he could answer, leaving the letters on the desk. Later that evening, Marco found her in the garden. "You shouldn't be alone out here," he said. "I need to think," she replied. He hesitated, then said quietly, "There's something you should know. The men who broke in that night, they weren't outsiders. Someone inside helped them." Aisha frowned. "Inside? You mean?" He nodded. "Someone close to the family. Maybe closer than we think." Before she could respond, the sound of a car engine roared down the driveway. Headlights flashed. Gunfire erupted. Marco shoved her to ground, shouting, "Get inside." But Aisha's eyes widened. Luca was in the garden, frozen in fear, clutching his teddy bear. "Luca!" she screamed. She ran toward him as bullets tore through the air. Vittorio's guards fired back, chaos exploding around them. She dove, pulling Luca down, shielding him with her body. "Don't move, baby." "Stay down," she cried. When the gunfire stopped, smoke hung over the garden like a ghost. Vittorio rushed out, shouting orders, face pale. "Get them out of here." Aisha looked up at him, and for the first time saw fear in the Mafia boss's eyes. Not for himself. For them. That night, Aisha sat in Luca's room, watching him sleep. His small hand rested on hers. She whispered, "You're just like your father. You don't even know how much danger follows you." Her phone buzzed. A new message. "He's lying. There's more about your mother. Meet me tomorrow at the docks. Midnight." Aisha's eyes narrowed. Her heart ached with grief, rage, and something darker, the need to know everything. She looked at Luca one last time, then whispered to herself, "I'll end this, one way or another." Outside, the storm began again, and with it, the war between vengeance and forgiveness. The clock struck midnight when Aisha reached the docks. The rain had stopped, but the night still felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. She walked past stacked shipping containers, the echo of her footsteps bouncing off steel. Her phone buzzed again. "Keep walking. Turn left by the red crate." Her heart pounded. She followed the message, stepping into a dimly lit space where the shadows seemed alive. And then she saw her, Nadia, standing under a single flickering bulb. "You came," Nadia said, her tone cold but calm. "I need answers," Aisha replied. "You said there's more about my mother. What did you mean?" Nadia took a slow drag from her cigarette. "You think Vittorio loved your mother?" she said, blowing out smoke. "He didn't. He used her." Aisha froze. "That's not true. I read their letters." "Letters?" Nadia laughed softly. "You think he didn't plant those for you to find? He's been manipulating this from the start. He knew who you were the moment you walked into that hospital." The words cut through her like glass. "No," she whispered. "He didn't know he couldn't have." Nadia stepped closer. "Vittorio is a chess player, Aisha. You were just another pawn in his game." Aisha clenched her fists. "You're lying." Nadia's eyes glinted. "Then why do you think he offered you the job? Why do you think his son suddenly couldn't sleep without you there? He's been using Luca to keep you close, to protect himself from us." Her throat went dry. The ground beneath her seemed to shift. "No," Aisha said again, voice trembling. "That can't be true." But somewhere inside, doubt had already begun to bloom. Nadia handed her an envelope. "Inside is proof," she said. "Bank statements, phone logs, even an old security photo from the night your mother died. Look at it before you decide where your loyalty lies." Aisha hesitated, then took it. Nadia's voice softened, almost kind now. "Your mother believed in mercy, but mercy got her killed. Don't make her mistake." And with that, Nadia vanished in the shadows, leaving Aisha alone with the envelope and 1,000 questions burning in her chest. Later that night, Aisha sat in her room with trembling hands as she tore open the envelope. Inside were printed photos, documents, and one grainy image that made her heart stop. It was still surveillance, a woman being pushed into a black car, her face bruised but recognizable. Her mother, and standing beside her was Marco. Her stomach dropped. She blinked, trying to make sense of it. No, it couldn't be. Marco, the quiet bodyguard who'd comforted her, who'd helped protect Luca. He was there. That night, the documents told the rest of the story. Marco had been working for both sides, the Mancini family and the Black Hand, a double agent. And it seemed, on the night her mother died, he betrayed them both. Aisha couldn't breathe. She stumbled to the bathroom, clutching the sink, staring at herself in the mirror. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "All of you lied to me. Every single one of you." Her phone buzzed again, this time from Marco. "You're not safe. Stay inside." Her fingers shook as she typed back, "Why were you there when my mother died?" The typing bubble appeared, then vanished. Her phone rang. "Aisha, listen to me." Marco's voice came through, panicked. "You don't understand. It wasn't what it looked like." "You lied to me," she shouted. "You said you didn't know her. You stood in front of me and said you wanted to protect us." "I did," he pleaded. "I tried to save her. But Vittorio, he set her up. He told the Black Hand she was leaking intel. I swear I didn't know until it was too late." Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. "So who killed her, Marco? Who pulled the trigger?" Silence. Then very softly, he said, "Me?" Aisha's breath hitched. "I didn't mean to," Marco said, voice breaking. "It was chaos. She ran in front of Vittorio when the gun went off. I never forgave myself." Aisha hung up. Her whole body went numb. The next morning, Vittorio found her sitting by the garden pond, pale and quiet. He approached slowly. "Aisha," he said softly, "you haven't eaten." She didn't look up. "Why didn't you tell me Marco was there when my mother died?" Vittorio froze. "Who told you that?" "Does it matter?" she whispered. "Is it true?" He sighed, sitting beside her. "Yes, but it's not what you think. Marco wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to protect her." Aisha's jaw tightened, and he failed. "He saved me instead," Vittorio said quietly, "and he's carried that guilt every day since." She turned to him, eyes cold. "You let him live, knowing he killed her." Vittorio's gaze darkened. "Killing him wouldn't bring her back." "No," Aisha said, "but maybe it would have stopped me from feeling like this." Her voice cracked, the words spilling like glass. "Do you know what it's like to live your whole life chasing ghosts? To wonder why your mother died, and now to find out she died protecting the man who destroyed her." Vittorio looked down, pain etched into his face. "I loved her, Aisha. That's the truth. I never had the courage to tell you. She wanted to save me from myself, but she couldn't." He stood, his shadow long against the rising sun. "If you want revenge, take it. But not here. Not in front of my son." That night, Aisha packed her things. She couldn't stay. Not under the same roof as the man who broke her world and the guard who pulled the trigger. But as she looked at Luca's sleeping face, a wave of guilt hit her like a knife. He was innocent, just a child. Her mother had died to keep him safe, and here she was about to walk away. She kissed his forehead gently. "You'll never know the monsters your father made, little one," she whispered. Then she turned to leave. But when she opened her door, Marco was standing there. His face was bruised, eyes hollow. I know you hate me, he said quietly. And you should, but you need to know that Nadia is not who you think she is. Aisha frowned. What do you mean? She works for Vittorio, Marco said. Always has. The Black Hand is a lie. It's his own creation, a way to control dissent. Your mother found out. That's why she died. Aisha's heart stopped. You're lying. I wish I was, Marco said. He made her think she was fighting for freedom, but she was fighting his enemies for him. Nadia is still doing his dirty work. That meeting last night, he knew you were there. Her breath caught. The envelope, the photos, the setup, it was all part of his game. A slow, cold realization spread through her. Vittorio hadn't saved her mother. He'd used her. And now, he was using Aisha. Before Aisha could react, the mansion alarms blared. Gunshots echoed from outside. Marco grabbed her arm. They've found us, the real Black Hand this time. Vittorio's enemies. You need to run. Not without Luca, she shouted. They sprinted down the hallway. Smoke filled the air. Guards shouted orders. She kicked open Luca's door empty. The bed was overturned. The window shattered. Vittorio was gone too. Aisha's heart sank. He took him. Marco's voice was grim. He knows you know the truth. He won't let you live now. Aisha turned toward him, eyes blazing through the smoke. Then he just made his last mistake. Sirens howled to the midnight air as Aisha and Marco tore through the abandoned streets, their lungs burning, hearts pounding. Behind them, the mansion was an inferno. Flames licking the night sky, devouring everything Vittorio once ruled. Aisha clutched Luca's small toy truck, the one she'd found in the empty bedroom. Her fingers trembling. He took him, she said through gritted teeth. Vittorio took his own son. Marco nodded grimly. He's desperate. Once word gets out, he staged everything. The Black Hand, the smuggling, your mother's death. His empire's done. Luca's his only leverage. Aisha's jaw tightened. Then we take all from him. They stopped at an old mechanic's shop, one of Vittorio's former safe houses. Marco checked the CCTV, tapping into the feed. There, he said, zooming in on a dockyard camera. Vittorio's signature black Bentley. He's heading to the private airstrip. Aisha loaded Marco's gun, her voice cold. Then we end it tonight. Marco hesitated. You're not thinking straight. Killing him won't bring your mother back. Aisha turned to him, eyes wet but fierce. No, Marco. It's not about bringing her back. It's about making him finally face what he's done. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. Then we do it together. The docks were quiet when they arrived. Too quiet. The air smelled of diesel and salt. Dim floodlights glowed over the water, reflecting off steel containers and shadows that moved just a little too quickly. Aisha and Marco moved into the side gate, crouching behind stacked crates. Voices echoed from the pier. Vittorio stood by the edge, dressed in his immaculate black coat, holding Luca close, the boy's tear-streaked face buried in his chest. Papa, I'm scared, Luca whispered. I know, mio cor, Vittorio murmured, but we'll be safe soon. Aisha stepped forward. Safe? You think there's safety left for you after what you've done? Vittorio turned, his face pale under the dock lights. Aisha, you shouldn't be here. I should have been here years ago, she said, gun raised. The night you killed my mother. Vittorio exhaled slowly. Your mother died because she betrayed me. She betrayed you? Aisha's voice broke. She was protecting you. She took the bullet meant for you, Vittorio. Marco told me the truth. He froze, eyes flickering toward Marco. For the first time, his mask cracked. She was supposed to run, he said quietly. She wasn't supposed to come back for me. She came back because she loved you. Aisha shouted. And you let the world think she was a traitor. Before Vittorio could answer, a gun clicked behind them. Touch him and you die, Nadia said, stepping out from the shadows. Her black coat fluttered in the wind, a pistol steady in her hand. Her face was calm, too calm. Nadia, Marco growled. Don't do this. Oh, Marco, she said with a smirk. You never did understand. Vittorio's fall means chaos. But with him gone, someone has to rule. Someone smart. Someone like me. Aisha glared at her. You used me. You made me believe Vittorio was a monster. Nadia's grin widened. He is a monster. But he's my monster. And when he's gone, I'll take everything he built. She turned her gun toward Aisha. You, on the other hand, are a liability. Vittorio stepped forward suddenly, shielding Luca. No, you touch her and I'll... Bang. The gunshot ripped through the air. For a second, no one moved. Then Nadia's smile faltered. She looked down, a red bloom spreading across her chest. Behind her, Marco lowered his smoking gun. She's done, he said quietly. Nadia collapsed onto the pier. The echo of the shot faded into the sound of waves. Aisha turned back to Vittorio. It's over, she said. Let the boy go. He shook his head. You think I can walk away? Everything I built, every choice I made, it all comes back to this. To her. He looked at Aisha, his eyes glistening. Your mother wanted me to stop. She begged me to leave that night. I didn't listen. She took the bullet that was meant for me. Every night since, I've seen her face in my dreams. A tear slipped down his cheek. Killing me won't fix it. But if you must do it, just let my son live. Aisha raised a gun, her hands trembling. Her mother's face flashed before her eyes. Warm, kind, forgiving. She couldn't do it. She lowered the weapon. No, she whispered. You don't get to die that easily. Vittorio blinked, confused. You're going to live, Aisha continued. And every day, you'll wake up knowing the empire you built. The blood money, the power, the lies, all of it ends with me. You'll live long enough to see it burn. The sound of approaching sirens filled the air. Aisha looked toward Marco. Call them. Let them take him alive. Vittorio felt his knees, holding Luca tighter. Please, don't take my son. Aisha crouched beside Luca, gently touching his cheek. You'll be safe now, okay? No more lies. No more secrets. The boy nodded, tears glimmering in his eyes. Are you going to leave, Miss Aisha? She smiled softly. No, sweetheart. I'm going to make sure no one ever hurts you again. Police lights painted the night red and blue. Officers swarmed the docks, arresting Vittorio and his men. As they dragged him away, he looked back at her. A look that carried regret, sorrow, and something almost like peace. Weeks later, the city began to heal. The headlines called her the woman who brought down the Mafia. But for Aisha, victory fell hollow. She sat by her mother's grave, the wind whispering through the grass. I did it, Mama, she murmured. It's over, but it doesn't feel like a win. It feels like losing you all over again. Marco appeared behind her, holding a letter. This was found in Vittorio's study, he said quietly. It's addressed to you. Aisha unfolded it. The handwriting was shaky, but unmistakable. Aisha, if you're reading this, it means I never got to tell you the truth. Your mother didn't die because of me. She died to save you. They found out who you were. She begged me to protect you, even if it meant letting her go. Everything I did, even the lies, were to keep you alive. You were the only thing she asked me to save. Vittorio Mancini. Tears streamed down Aisha's cheeks. She clutched the letter to her chest, whispering, You both lied, but you both love me in your own broken way. A few months later, Aisha opened a small community center, the Amira Foundation, named after her mother. It was a safe space for children affected by violence and loss. Luca often visited, now walking with crutches and a shy smile. One afternoon, as they painted together, he asked, Miss Aisha, do you miss my dad? She smiled sadly. Sometimes. But what I miss more is believing people can't change. He nodded slowly. You changed. She laughed softly. Maybe I did. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, golden light spilling across the city that had once been ruled by shadows. For the first time in years, Aisha felt something like peace. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't change the past. It just frees the future. If this story touched you, imagine what's coming next. Subscribe to the channel. turn on notifications, and join me for more stories.